and actually we won't go live, but on YouTube.
There is a little bit of delay.
Actually we won't go live, but on YouTube we are on live.
There is a little bit of delay.
We are on live. Hi.
Hi.
So, всем привет, ребята. Сегодня GDG Бишкек, и мы решили запустить, пригласить Excel Talon. Он у нас специалист по Google Assistant. Google Assistant есть во всех Android-приложениях. Вы можете сказать Google, окей, Google, и он начнет вас слушать, и вы можете
I don't know if you can hear her, but I definitely can't. I don't think you can either. And I don't have the admin privileges, so I can't get her off the air. Oh, yeah. Okay, so as you were saying, my name is Yüksel. Today I will be talking about Google Assistant. I think I will wait a couple more minutes so that she can reconnect and do the introductions and and tell you all about their own community, because I understand this is their first online event. That's why I'm really excited to connect with you and talk about Google Assistant. I have been working with Google Assistant, developing on Google Assistant for over 2 years now. And it's something that I'm really excited to share, because I do believe that voice user interfaces are the future of technology. That's why this is a good content for me to share. It's really exciting for me. Whether you're a hardware developer, software developer, even game developer, you will find something for yourself in Google Assistant. Even if you're just a content creator and you haven't written a single line of code in your entire life, you can still develop actions without writing code. Or if you wanna start writing code, if that's been something that you wanted to do for a long time but you've been waiting for the right opportunity, I believe this is it, because platform isn't itself so hard to develop for. You can easily start developing your first action in an hour or two by following some code labs or exercises. And then you can gradually work your way up to harder and harder, more complex actions. It's a platform that's easy to learn but hard to master, as everything that's worth your time. I think you're going to find a lot of things, helpful things in this presentation. Let me just see how are things. Hold on. Okay, they're saying their computer crashed, so that's why it went down. But nevertheless, I can just start my presentation, and hopefully you'll like it. Just so I can see the chat. If you have any questions, you can just write it on the chat, and I will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. But please write your questions as soon as you think of them, because sometimes there's a delay between me talking, you writing, and in between. There's a delay in between, so I don't want to miss any questions. So please ask your questions now. All right, let's start our presentation. I want to talk about first the revolution or the revolutions in computer world. You see, every 10 years, there's a major shift in computing world. This changes the world along with it. What I mean? Now, in 77, we had mainframes, and then 10 years later, we had desktop computers. And finally, regular people like who are not programmers, will finally be able to interact with a computer and get their jobs done. And computers were finally in our homes, in our offices. They were not just huge things that were just in universities or laboratories. So this means that the next 10 years we had internet. This meant that our access to knowledge was really easy now, and that's why human to machine interaction, human to computer interaction has changed once again for the better. And this made us love computers even more. As you can see, every time a new user experience change, whether it's about the actual experience that we interact with computers or the benefits that we get from them, every time that changes for the better, we as a world, as humans, change for the better as well. Can you imagine a world without internet, without email right now? We can't. Every 10 years, computing world changes drastically in a way that we can never go back. And the greatest example of this is actually the mobile revolution. I'm sure most of you remember when we first had our smartphones, how drastic of a change it was from the regular experience of a regular phone. It was something incredible. And it starts with 2007 because that's when iPhone was introduced. iPhone wasn't the first touch phone, wasn't the first phone with a touch screen. It wasn't the first quote-unquote smartphone because we already had Symbian OS and they had applications. And iPhone wasn't the first in neither of these fields, but it made user experience very, very easy on those fields so that users actually loved using these devices. It wasn't complicated. It was very simple. It wasn't unintuitive. They didn't have to learn a lot of things. It was very intuitive. Pinching to zoom or zoom in or out. This was really intuitive for us. That's why we loved iPhones, and that's why it started mobile revolution. And ever since then, it never went back to phones with QWERTY keyboards or phones with alphanumeric keyboards. So now the same thing is happening with voice. Around 2017, we started to use digital assistants or virtual assistants more and more in our lives, and they started to be able to understand us in a better way than they could in the past. This meant that we can now do things easier than even touching the computer screens or phone screens. We can now just utter a sentence in any way we like, and computers will do that. Whether it's ordering food, ordering a car, whatever you want to do, you can just talk to a computer. And in the near future, we will be able to handle most our businesses by talking and talking only. And this will greatly improve our lives, hence changing the world for the better again. This is where Google Assistant comes in. Google Assistant is a personal virtual assistant that enables conversation between you and Google to get things done. It was introduced in 2016, and the device you're seeing on the screen right now, this device right here, oh, you can see my mouse. Okay, the device you're seeing right now with the dots on it, it's the Google Home device. I'm sure you're familiar with the paradigm by now, but we now have smart speakers in our homes. I actually have two here. One of them is a Google Home, and the other one's Alexa. I'm sorry, it's an Echo Dot. I hope I didn't trigger Alexa. Oh, I didn't. Anyway, these are smart speakers, and they are dedicated devices to talk to so that we can get things done in a faster way or just ask questions and get answers. It's a new world, and we are currently, as developers, developing it. Right now, Google Assistant runs more than 1 billion devices, more than 1 billion different devices. And this is huge because it's on Android phones, it's on smart speakers, it's on smart displays. Smart displays are the devices that next to the watch in the picture. They basically are smart speakers with screens on them. Google Assistant are also on earphones. Now we have Pixel Buds 2, which are truly wireless earphones. You just put them in your ear and you can talk to the assistant whenever you want. So this means that you can, if you develop a voice application, you can reach more than 1 billion devices with one single application. And as far as population goes, it's available in 30 languages in 80 countries. This is huge as well, and I'm very happy that it's also available in Turkish. but I do most of my development in English for various different reasons. So why am I talking about a product that Google released and not about coding? Because this is not just a product. This is also a platform that you can build for and publish your own action, publish your own voice application, get interact with your users in a brand new way. Google Assistant is the personification of Google itself, so it's actually not something that you can interfere as a developer. But Actions on Google is a platform that you can build your own actions. And this is actually what I'm going to focus on today. I will talk about the different ways that you can develop actions, whether you're a content owner or an Android app developer. There is something for everyone. If you have a content that you want to put on a voice platform and it's suitable for a voice platform, you will definitely find a way to put it. Let's say you're a content creator. You already have a website, a podcast, or even recipes. You want to put them in a Google Assistant so that they can talk to your users. For sites with current in popular areas like news, podcasts, and recipes, we have structured data markup to make your content available in richer ways on search. So you're already optimizing your data for search by using structured data, because that way you can get in front of other links or other websites in Google search engine. The same thing works for Google Assistant. You don't have to do anything new. Right now, your content is discoverable on Assistant because you're using structured data already. And this is really huge. Well, right now, Google, hold on this slide. Yeah. So this means that once you have optimized your website, it's available as a website already. And now Google Assistant can discover it in a brand new way. This is for podcasts. It's just standard RSS. This has always been the industry standard. And this approach is actually the same for search and Assistant as well. So you can just use this structured data to make your podcasts discoverable on Assistant. Let's say you have a how-to guide or a FAQ page in your website. You will be able to optimize these for Google Assistant as well. If you have a video that is a how-to guide, let's say you have a YouTube video, it's teaching people how to do certain things in step-by-step fashion, and now you can turn it into an action without writing any code. The only thing you have to do is to go to Actions console, pick the template, and the template's name is how to content, how to video. And after you pick the template, you just fill a Google Sheet and you just write your YouTube link, and then you will write your steps with the timestamps, and then it will just create an action automatically. And the FAQs will be available on Assistant with structured data as well. If you structure your data properly, the users will just be able to ask, what's S'mores delivery fee? Let's assume your company's name is S'mores. What's S'mores delivery fee? And Assistant will answer it, because it will be able to read your FAQ data. Now, if you're an Android developer, then you might be thinking, how can I combine Assistant with my own application? How can this help with my application development process? The problem with Android or any other smartphone application right now, it's really hard to get users interested in your own application, and it's also hard to keep them. The statistics shows us that it costs around $4 to get a new user, but 77% of new users do not come back to the application after 3 days because you're getting lost in the application sea. App Actions can help with this. App Actions are actually a way to interact with your Android application via Google Assistant. So you can think of it as a shortcut to talk to your application through Google Assistant, and they can fast forward the process. For example, we have an application called S'mores. It's an application where I can customize my own s'more s'more is a type of American dessert that they put biscuit under and cracker under, some marshmallow, and then another cracker. So let's say I have an application that allows you to customize and order s'mores, and it's called s'mores. Right now, if this Android application first have to be found in the sea of applications, then user will have to select the cracker, then they will have to select the marshmallow, and they will have to select chocolate, then they will have to select which toast level they want it done, and they will have to select how many of these they want to order, then they will have to review their order, then finally complete their order. Right now, it takes 8 steps for a user to actually customize their order and order something really simple. But this can change with app actions. With app actions, they can just say their order in a natural way, like order 1 milk chocolate well done from s'mores. And Google Assistant will actually parse that data into your application, and your application will start with the review order intent. This means that all the other steps have been bypassed by just uttering one sentence to Google Assistant, and they will just review their order and then complete their order. It's really straightforward, and it can really enhance the user experience. Let's take a look at some of the ways that this has been done. For example, Nike Run Club does this. When you say start my run in Nike Run Club, it automatically opens and starts the run. You don't have to press any other button. Your run has started. Nothing else has to be done. No more cumbersome user experiences. Right now, app actions are only available for a limited number of, not more s'mores, it's s'mores. Right now, app actions only are available for a limited number of intents, meaning that not every application can take advantage of them for now. But these intents actually represents an atomic thing that a user can do, and I believe in the future we'll have more and more of them. The thing about built-in intents and why not every action can have this feature right away, not every app can have this feature right away, is because built-in intents handle natural language processing for you. If you have an application about exercising, there is a lot of different ways and a lot of different languages to say start my exercise. There are, like, we as humans do not talk in a very strict fashion. We talk, all over the place, and being able to understand it isn't that easy. So built-in intents handle this natural language processing step for you, but this means that not every intent is built in right away. This means we might have to wait longer for certain types of applications to take advantage of this feature. Right now, if you want to implement an app action, you just put these into your actions XML. You just define your fulfillment, and you also put this in your main activity. And that's it. That's literally it. It's really not that hard. You just have to, query the parameters that comes from the action. Let's say you are a hardware developer and you're building smart home devices and you want to make them assistant enabled. Now you can use smart home device integrations. This is really an online way of doing things. So you need some sort of server or cloud, to be able to use this feature. But it also means that it will connect with Google Assistant very, very easily. Plus, Google will handle the natural language processing for you again, so you don't have to do any natural language processing on your own, which is really the hard part. So there is this thing called home graph. I like to call it the commander of the house, because it keeps track of all the states of all connected devices. So it knows if the lights are on or off or dimmed. It knows whether or not the washing machine is working. Of course, for all of this to work, your devices might have to be enabled. So your hardware can also be a part of home graph, then be controlled through Google Assistant. And there's now a new way, local home SDK, that can do this locally, which is really good because doing things online as a hardware developer might be a concern. So right now it is possible to use local home SDK, and this will of course decrease the latency. These are some of the types of devices that you can build and types of traits that you can assign to those devices. As you can see, there are lots of different types, and they keep adding as far as I know. So if you want to build a smart mop, you can. If you want to build a smart boiler, you can. So it's really not limiting. You just have to, be good at what you're already doing, which is hardware development. And then Google Assistant will make it easy for you to implement it to the platform. But let's say you are not an Android developer, you are not a content creator, you are not a hardware developer. You want to build voice experiences strictly for voice platforms. What can you do then? What I mean are just applications that works on Google Assistant and nowhere else, not connected to a device or not connected to an Android application. They're just conversations between you and the user on Google Assistant. How can you build these? These are actually what I really like to do. Now, this type of application works when users starts by saying something, saying your action's name. There is no download mechanism for actions, so I don't have to download an action to be able to use it. You might be thinking, if I don't download it, how does it know which action I want to use? It works like a website, the same way you would write a website's name to the address bar on your browser. You just say the action's name to your Google Assistant. You just say, okay, G. I'm using G instead of Google so that I won't trigger any devices in my house or yours. You just have to say, okay, G, talk to Professor Binary. And Professor Binary is one of my actions. And Professor Binary will start talking to the user. So user input will be transcribed, will be returned to text by Google. And then Google will get this request and then start my action, which runs on my cloud or server. And then I fulfill the user's request and respond to them with a proper response, whatever they want to do or learn. Yeah, it works like this. Users comes, hey G, talk to personal chef. Google will transcribe the text and then invoke the personal chef action, and personal chef will say something. When I say say, I mean actually we send a response, and Google reads the response out loud. What are we in the mood for? But there is something missing here. There is something missing because with this type of setup, we would have to do the natural language processing ourselves because users can want something in many different ways. For example, this is for a food action, and users might say, well, it's kind of cold outside, so I'd like something warm to warm me up. And now we have this transcribed as a text in our server, but we still don't know what they want to do because it's really hard for computers to understand human conversation. So we have to parse this, but it would be really hard if we had to do all the work ourselves. Thankfully, Google gives us Dialogflow. Dialogflow is a tool that allows you to do natural language processing in a much easier fashion. It does two things, but it does them well. First thing Dialogflow does is intent matching. Intent is a goal that user is trying to reach, and they can say a lot of different things to reach the same goal. I might say, order a pizza, I want food. These are all the same intent. These are all get food intent. I can also say, I want hamburgers, I want fish. These are all the same intent. Dialogflow recognizes this because we teach Dialogflow beforehand that users might say these. We teach the Dialogflow, we define the intents very easily. And then when user says something, Dialogflow immediately matches that to one of the intents that we have described before. And then we can just understand what the user says because Dialogflow already did the natural language processing for us. But if get hamburger and order pizza are the same intent, how are we going to differentiate between hamburger and pizza? Because it seems like the user is trying to reach two different goals. Well, no, because user wants food, but the type of food they want is different. This means that we can create an entity, a variable, and we can store the food type in it. That way, when users say, I want hamburger, or I want fish, or I want pizza, you will get that its intent is actually get food, but the entity value is either pizza, hamburger, or fish. And Dialogflow does that for you as well. Entity extraction is the second function of Dialogflow, and it means that whether or not user use some parameters in their speech, some variables in their speech, it will be extracted, and Dialogflow will build a simple JSON for you to read and write, process on your server. So right now, the flow has changed. Dialogflow has come in between your server and Google Assistant. Dialogflow gets the transcribed text from Assistant and just intent matches and entity extracts from the text. So what you get is a JSON, just as you would get from a web application or a mobile application. And now you can easily understand what the user is saying. And I want to talk a little bit about voice games, because once you're doing something conversationally, and if you could possibly draw, visuals on screen, then you could make games that you can talk to. And with Interactive Canvas, we can. Interactive Canvas is a visual component for Google Assistant that works mainly on smartphones and smart displays. Interactive Canvas is actually really flexible because it gives you the entire control of the screen. You can draw on the screen anything you want by using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are tools and platforms that you're already probably using, or at least you have used sometime in the past. Allowing you, the developer, to show full screen visuals and build a conversation around it allows you to build games. For example, the Are You Feeling Lucky game on Action Store right now, the Assistant directory right now, was built with Interactive Canvas. So how does this work? As I said before, normally a conversational action is user talking to device talking to Dialogflow, Dialogflow talking to my server, and my server sending a response. Normally, a conversational action works this way. But when we have the Interactive Canvas, we need another application, a web application that we will show on the screen. So as a response, we send an HTML response to the user. This will open our web application on their device. But there is still something missing. We still can't control anything on the web application via our voice, because as you can see, our user interaction is still happening on this site. Only one application can be opened here, and then that's it. It doesn't make any sense. That's why we have Interactive Canvas API. This is a client-side API that you built into your web application, and it listens for the state changes from the fulfillment. And if user says something that changes the state of the web application, Interactive Canvas API will trigger an event, and then you can change something in your web application using that event as well. Pretty straightforward. I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but it's not, and it's really fun to work with, because at the end of the day, at the end of like an hour or two, you have a visual game that you can control with your voice. Obviously, the time will depend on the complexity of your game, but still, it's pretty impressive to be able to do this. Now, if you have any questions, I can answer them. I know it was a lot of information to give at one point, at one time, but I wanted to cover as much as possible about Google Assistant, because you might be an Android application developer, you might be a hardware developer, and you might be wondering how your product or your service be implemented in Google Assistant. So if you have any more questions, if you want to learn something more specific, you can reach me through social media. All my social media usernames are YTOLUN. I will show it at the end of presentation. right now I'm just rambling, so you can ask your questions if you have any. There's one question. It says, does for conversation using Dialogflow? I assume you're trying to ask, do we use Dialogflow for conversational actions? Yes, we do, but we don't have to. If you have any other way of doing natural language processing, you can just use that. Dialogflow is just a tool that Google provides to make it easier if you don't have any other way and don't want to do it on your own, which is something I always use because I have been using Dialogflow for a very long time. It was actually before I started working on Google Assistant, or developing for Google Assistant. Before I was developing actions, I was developing chatbots for Facebook and various different other messenger platforms. And back then I was using API AI, and API AI was a chatbot building platform. Then Google bought API AI and changed its name to Dialogflow. So I already knew my way around it, and it was really easy for me to get started with Google Assistant because of it. Google Assistant conversational actions, what I mean. Okay, if you don't have any questions, I will just summarize what we've talked about today.
We have some questions. Sorry.
Okay.
They are coming now.
Does that mean I can write some programs on mobile without knowing Android development? Not necessarily. I mean, if you want an application that's going to be installed on the phone and work as a typical application, you still have to know how to develop for Android. But if you want to build a voice application that runs on Assistant, if you want to build an action that runs on Assistant, you don't have to know. No, you don't have to know Android development. It's actually more similar to web development than Android development. So in a way, yes, even if you don't know Android development, you can still develop actions and have it work on Google Assistant. And since Google Assistant runs on most of the Android phones, it will run on most Android phones. But if you want something that's like installed, something that has a screen, something that's not built to be talked but built to be touched, that's not this platform is all about. So I see a lot of developers try to create an application inside the Google Assistant, and I repeat, it's not what this platform built for. So yeah. I wouldn't suggest doing that, because I see a lot of people trying to build social platforms, trying to build messaging applications on Assistant, and I'm not saying they can't be done, but the way they're trying to build them is exactly the same way that you would build them in a mobile application paradigm, and it's not suitable for actions on Google, is what I mean. You have to think outside the box, and maybe you have to have a voice first approach to the problem that you're trying to solve. Otherwise, you can just use Kotlin or Java or Flutter to create an Android application. All right, I'm moving forward. Today, we talked about different ways that you can use to develop for actions on Google, whether you're a content owner or an Android app developer or a voice app developer. You can use content actions or structured data for if you're a content owner. You can use app actions. You can use app actions if you're an Android app developer. You can use, if you're a game developer, you can use interactive canvas to build rich, immersive gaming experiences that's controlled by voice. And if you're a hardware developer, you can use Smart Home SDK to put your device on home graph or be locally controlled by Google Assistant. And finally, if you want to be a voice app developer, if you want to build voice experiences for this platform, you can use Dialogflow, and Actions on Google will deliver your voice applications on more than 1 billion devices. So it's pretty good. I have 2 more questions, so let's just answer them. How much will it cost to use this technology? Well, technically speaking, nothing, because you don't have to pay anything to develop for actions on Google. But let's say you're developing an application using Dialogflow and your fulfillment, your server is on Firebase Cloud Functions or Google Cloud Platform, then you would have to pay for that. But if you have your own server or you are using another cloud provider, then you wouldn't have to pay anything. So it kind of depends on what you're using, but just for the assistant and just for actions on Google, you don't have to pay anything. But if you have, like, as I said, if you have a server or cloud function platform, then you would have to. But I mean, as far as my actions go, I haven't really, they're not really that heavily used at the moment. So it doesn't really cost that much to have an action on cloud function as well. Like, it doesn't really reach the price limitations of free limits. You can use just free versions of Firebase. Is there any plans to launch assistant for web platforms? Well, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I don't work for Google. I'm just a volunteer developer that tries to share my knowledge with communities like yourselves. So I don't really know the roadmap of the product, and so I don't know any more than you do about web platforms at the moment. But you can use Dialogflow to build chatbots for web applications or your own website, for example. So it doesn't exactly, it's not exactly Google Assistant, but it's still a chatbot. And if you know your way around text to speech or speech to text, you can make it talk as well. But still, this wouldn't be actions on Google. This would be a chatbot that talks. So I don't know the questions. I don't know the answer to your question. Do we have any chance to have you as a GCD mentor? I don't know what GCD is, but just email me or reach me on social media, and then we can chat about it. If it's something that I can do, and if it's suitable for my schedule, of course, why not? I mean, I would be glad to help, but I really don't know what that means, and I don't know if I can do it, really. All right, so these are some resources to get you started, and what I recommend, these are a lot of links. What I recommend is just going through the code labs. If you want to build conversational experiences, my mouse is gone again. Interesting. What I recommend is going through the code labs if you want to learn how to use Dialogflow. And for smartphone, there's also a smartphone page that I'm covering right now. So yeah, these are some of the links that you can go. There's another question. What are the perspectives of being voice app developer? It seems very interesting, but what a novice should know about it and where one can find good resources to look at. Thanks. Well, this is that slide. For actions on Google, these are the resources that you will need mostly to get started. Code labs are incredible if you want to be a voice app developer, because they will take you from zero to a to a very good point, because they will teach you about the platforms, the Dialogflow and the actions on Google platforms response types, which are the basic things that you will use if you're a voice app developer. So I suggest that you take a look at the code labs. There are 3 of them right now in terms of Dialogflow. And if you're really comfortable with level 1, level 2, and level 3 code labs, and you can build your own voice applications using them, then you will start, your wheels will start turning, and you will start to understand the platform better. Yeah. Oh, GCP mentor. No, I don't think I would be a good person for that, because my cloud experience is really limited with what I do on the cloud platform. So, and Fox Mulder, if you get stuck at any point while you're trying out code labs or trying to learn how to develop a voice, you can reach me out on social media. All of you can reach me out on social media, and I will try to help you out. Thank you for listening to me. These are again some of the platforms that we live on. You can ask your questions on Reddit, or you reach me through social media. That's my Twitter handle, YTOLUN. Remember, I said I would put it on screen. I'm a man of my promises.
Thanks. My question was about how we can extend understandable properties of dialogue flow, maybe because when I asked my assistant call to my mom by her name, it didn't understand.
I can't really understand it. Your voice just cuts, and let me just get my headphones. Hold on.
Can I write?
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yes, I will write here.
Right now, there is no voice at all.
When I asked Google Assistant to call my mom by her name, Assistant didn't understand. So how can we extend these properties?
Well, functions like calling someone or doing native things on your phone, they are first party actions. They are actually built by Google for Assistant, and that's why you can't, as a developer, interfere with that experience and change it in any way. That's why, as far as calling your mom goes, I don't think there's anything you can do to improve that experience. But if you have a voice chat application, if you have a calling application like Skype or something similar, then you can build app action for that, and then you would have the ability to improve certain aspects of your action. But as I said, for native calling through your phone, you can't do much to improve that. I mean, we're just gonna have to wait for the technology to be better, and it's a lot better right now than it was a couple of years ago. So I assume it'll get better and better exponentially.
So thanks.
Yeah.
Ребята, если у вас больше нет дополнительных вопросов, можно Юкселю писать прям вот в Твиттере. Он довольно очень активно отвечает, пишет. Ну и всем спасибо, Юксель. Thanks.
Thanks.
Ладно, всем пока.